previewing the Southern Miss Tennessee Super Regional with Locked On Vols host Eric Cain. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. We'll get into it here shortly. Locked On Vols host Eric Cain will join us. Second time Eric and I have done a crossover. We did it for the NCAA basketball tournament when it was the Raging Cajuns taking on Tennessee in the NCAAs in Orlando. Tennessee kind of won and survived in that ballgame, right? They had a huge lead. Not sure if the Cajuns, memory serves me, if they ever had a chance to tie it, but they certainly cut an 18-point lead, like down to 4, and they certainly made a game of it, and it was a lot of fun. All right, in this episode of Locked On Sunbelt crossover edition with Locked On Vols, obviously we're going to preview the series. I think it's going to come down to Tanner Hall. You got to get off to a good start if you're Southern Miss. I'm not sure if they have enough if he comes up short, although they did in the regional in Auburn. And he's going to talk about the Tennessee pitching as well. But he wants to know about Dustin Dickerson. We go over the Vols rotation. And, of course, what has been really the most entertaining thing going on all week is the Twitter beef between Southern Miss and Vols Nation. It has been fascinating. Again, I do not know when Applebee's and or Hattiesburg has ever been trending, and both were trending this week. All right, so stay tuned. It's a great episode. Here is the crossover episode previewing Southern Miss and Tennessee with Locked On Vols host Eric Cain.
Locked On crossover, David Schultz. I am Eric Cain, host of Locked On Vols. David over here, host of Locked On Sunbelt. And Super Regionals, it is here, and game number 1 of Tennessee and Southern Miss set for Saturday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. It's going to be televised on ESPNU. David, first and foremost, how do you like this series, man? It's 2 really good ball clubs. Southern Miss, one of the hottest teams in the country. Tennessee looked like one of the best teams in the country in the Clemson Regional. How excited are you for this Super Regional play?
Well, it should be really good. So, a little bit of a shocker that, the Sunbelt team got to host. You look into it a little bit further, right? They outdrew Tennessee last year in the Super Regionals, although both teams did come up short. So Southern Miss wins the Sunbelt Conference tournament. They were the 2nd seed in, right behind Coastal Carolina. They downed the Cajuns in the championship ball game. And then, did it the hard way in their regional. They lost the first game, and somebody that Tennessee needs to keep an eye on is Justin Storm. He pitched extremely well in the Sunbelt Championship game against the Cajuns, gave up a 2-run home run in the regional opener, but then pitched 5 1/3 shutout innings to win the regional with 10 punchouts. He is, the reliever, and he's really good. I think that Scott Berry mentioned that he kind of came into his own last year at this time in the regional and the Super Regional, and got off to a little bit of a slow start. But like the rest of the team for the last couple of months, Southern Miss has been really tough. Tennessee's going to need to bring, their best. And I would ask you, it's a little bit different this year, right? LSU was kind of the Tennessee of this year, where Tennessee was all cocky and having a lot of fun last year. But then do you think they were humbled this year and kind of, instead of doing all the celebrating, it was much more important to go out and win? And that's exactly what they did.
Well, I mean, Tennessee for, it's so wild, and I know people that follow college baseball probably know this, but just from the outside looking in, you probably just don't realize Tennessee replaced so much. You brought back pitching, which was great, and you added 2 pitching, and in the game of baseball, if you add pitching, you can win. But 1 through 8 in that order, 1 through 9 in that order, I mean, you replaced pretty much everybody. You had some guys who played a little bit, but they weren't everyday players. So it took Tennessee a while to kind of figure out how to play with each other, whose role was where, that outfield rotation, who's the best, left-handed bat off the bench, all that type of stuff. And slowly but surely, they were going through those growing pains, and they were 5-10 in SEC play, and I mean they were on the outside looking in, right? And then the Vanderbilt game came Friday night, game 1 at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Tennessee played a really, really good game, but was down by 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning. 2 solo home runs tied it. They walked it off in the 13th or 12th inning, whatever it was. And since that Vanderbilt game, things have turned. Tennessee went off and finished 15 of the last 19 with wins, 11 of the last 15 in SEC play, and they figured out who they were. And so this is a dangerous ball club right now, David, that they can pitch. They've looked like they can pitch, and their best pitcher is not even, you look at his numbers, Chase Dollander has taken a big step down from last year. He's still got incredible stuff, and he's looked better of late, but guys like Andrew Lindsey and Chase Burns in the bullpen and Drew Beam at number 3 and Camden Sewell out of the bullpen, A.J. Russell, a huge reason why Tennessee is where they are right now, and they're going to need all those guys and more to try to silence that good lineup for Southern Miss.
So conference tournaments are different for different teams, right? Southern Miss or Coastal didn't need the Sun Belt Championship as much as the Cajuns needed to get there and make their, play their way in. I mean, Tennessee didn't win a ball game in the SEC tournament. Obviously, they were going to be a number 2 seed. I'm not sure they could have hosted maybe if they won it. So what was Tennessee's, plan going into the SEC tournament, and how disappointed were they not to win it? I can't imagine it was I think they got shut out in game 1. I can't imagine that was the plan. But, what was the reaction following the tournament and then, the plan for the regional?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody ever goes out there and tries to lose. Right. But having said that, Tennessee was already locked to make the tournament. Tennessee was in position to where if you won that game and maybe won another game, maybe if you won 3 games in Hoover, you could have probably played yourself into – you were already in the hosting conversation, but you could have probably played yourself into being a national host. But there were so many SEC hosts this year that you felt like – they were low on the pecking order. But, Tennessee went one and done, and Texas A&M shut them out 3-0. They went on that run to the championship game, and it was disappointing. It was frustrating for sure. But now looking back, and you almost knew it at the time, you were thinking, okay, this could be a blessing in disguise. Now you look back and say, boy, Tennessee took advantage of the rest. Tennessee took advantage of resting the arms, getting some cage work in, doing some scrimmaging, kind of just doing themselves, and then worried about the Auburn Regional, and then they can line everything up where they want. So you never want to lose. In 2022, when Tennessee was the best team in the country, they played all the way to Sunday, and they won the SEC tournament, and that was fun. That was exciting. But then they turned right around, and of course they won the regional. It was fine, but you turned right around and had to play a regional. So this time around it was kind of I want to say a blessing in disguise. But they look fresh. The bats were humming this past weekend. The arms were just about as good as they possibly could be. Chase Dollander wasn't too sharp, but everybody else was pretty sharp, and that's a big reason why Tennessee is where they are.
All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, Eric Cain asks me about the Southern Miss lineup, and I ask him about the Vols weekend rotation. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Birddogs. Love my Birddogs. I will be out in Baton Rouge for that regional against Kentucky and LSU. And my shorts make my legs look great. The stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Birddog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. They fit way better than the regular shorts they're made of the stiff and restricting cotton. All right, go to birddoggs.com/lockedon and enter promo code LockedOnCollege for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddoggs.com/lockedon for a free Yeti-style tumbler. You won't want to take your Birddogs off, we promise. It really is a great pair of shorts. Again, these are things that you can use, at work, on the golf course, hanging out with your buddies, or even on a date. It is birddoggs.com/lockedoncollege to get the free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. All right. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Did we do that right? We did. All right, let's get back to it with the host of Locked On Vols, Eric Cain, a little crossover edition. And he asks me about the Southern Miss lineup, and I ask him about the Vols weekend rotation.
I want to ask you about Dustin Dickerson. My goodness. 6 home runs in regional play. I think he had 2 home runs the previous 3 years before this season. An all-conference player. It feels like that lineup, he's hitting .330. They kind of go as he goes, it feels like.
Well, so Southern Miss had an opposite start to the season that maybe they were expecting, right? They were highly regarded. You don't usually see these group of 5 schools, top 10, top 15, and having an ace like Tanner Hall, a little bit different of an ace. Volunteers maybe used to guys throwing 95 to 100, right, for themselves, and maybe seeing if they ever get to see LSU and a Paul Skeens. Tanner Hall throws high 80s and, with changeups and breaking balls. The lineup was not going very well to begin the season, right? Maybe a little chilly, and that puts a lot of pressure on the pitching. And so you feel like you got to be perfect. Once the lineup came around with Dickerson and Danny Lynch and some others, they're tough. They are tough. They had an awful loss to App State in the Sun Belt Conference tournament and came back later in the day and dusted them off early, and didn't matter. They played one extra game that they wanted to and had enough pitching to make it through and beat the Cajuns, who did not have enough pitching at the end. But yeah, Dickerson leads the lineup with Danny Lynch. He's like a Southern Miss legend. He has been a Raging Cajuns destroyer throughout his career. So they'll, Volunteer fans need to pay attention to him as well. Scott Berry, of course, has already announced his retirement. He's pulling out all the mental gymnastics that he can help out his team. So it'll be interesting to see. And he's only 60, right? I mean, we got football coaches in this league that are closer to 80 that are still going. So no, the lineup is really good. Dickerson is a big part of it. The question is going to be, and it's odd, Eric, talking with Scott Watkins of the Sun Herald, on how we go from needing so much pitching in conference tournaments, needing a lot of pitching if you lose a game in the regional.
Oh, yeah.
Don't really need a whole lot of pitching in a super regional. It's 3 games at most. You don't have to worry about that 4th or 5th ball game. If you lose, it's only one more ball game. That's it at the worst. So it'll be interesting to see, how these guys, use their pitching to set it up with. Tanner Hall, I presume, is going. That's the way Scott Berry's going to go. And the question is, who's going to be number 2? They've used that combination of Nick Mazza, the starter, and that Justin Storm on the back end, and that's worked out 2 out of 3 times really, really well. Who does? You mentioned who Tennessee's best pitcher is. Is that who's going to expect to go on Saturday?
Yeah, so I would anticipate Andrew Lindsay would get the start on Saturday. Chase Dolander, he was the number 2 last year with Chase Burns on Fridays, and he started the year as the number 1, but when they moved Chase Burns to the bullpen, they moved Dolander back to 2 and brought in Andrew Lindsay. And Lindsay, he played for Charlotte in 2021, pitched against Charlotte on Friday this past week, so that was fun for him. He's going to be an early round draft pick this summer. He's got nasty stuff, and arguably he is the reason, one of the main reasons why Tennessee's had this turnaround. He's just been an anchor. Tennessee's won 6 of his last starts. He's got like a 2.12 ERA. I mean, he's really, really solid. So he will pitch on Saturday, I would imagine. Dolander will pitch on Sunday, and then if there's a Monday, if necessary, Drew Beam is your number 3 starter, but you got to have a plan for Monday. Don't get me wrong, but it's always fun to play manager on all these scenarios. Right. Say you're up 2-3 runs on Sunday. I don't think Drew Beam would be the guy you turn to go get those outs, but maybe you make him available on Sunday if Tennessee's in the driver's seat. Who knows? But you go back to saying like you need so much pitching for conference tournament and regional play, to where you might not need as much for this, because it potentially could only be it could only be 2 games, 3 games most. I could maybe see Tennessee taking one of their pitchers that they carried last weekend, taking him off active roster, bringing up another position player just to have some more flexibility. So, we'll see exactly what happens.
All right, let's take one more time out. When we come back, we'll talk about this Twitter beef between Southern Miss and Vols Nation. But thank you for continuing to tune in. We've actually done a lot of subscriptions over the last week, as you would expect. So it really would be big if Southern Miss can make this College World Series and make a run. Maybe we get to 300 subscribers here before the end of the baseball season. And it's because of you, all right? Also, it helps when the Cajuns are playing Tennessee in the NCAA tournament. It helps when Southern Miss is hosting a super regional, because there is content to talk about with games that are actually going on right now. Also, don't forget, if you do see the YouTube channel, like it and share it. Like those videos. That it helps out a big way. Also, audio-wise, wherever you get your podcasts from. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast from, just Google search Locked On Sunbelt, and you can find it there. We do appreciate it, and the station is continuing to grow. We do actually have a football coach coming on. It's going to be recorded tomorrow, but it probably won't come on until the middle of next week because the Super Regional is actually Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So we have a Monday episode already planned, but depending on what happens on Saturday and Sunday, and we may have a Tuesday episode planned. What happens if it does go 3 ball games? So we do have a Sunbelt college football coach on. We may preview that a little bit, but we are doing that tomorrow. We are doing that on we're recording it on Friday. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. It's a big help. We will get back to the football. We kind of need to recap the spring and start to look ahead to fall camps and see where we are. Because, as it turns out, there seems to be a lot of question marks at quarterback in the Sun Belt, including with the Raging Cajuns is one of them. That's for sure. Not so much South Alabama. They seem to have their quarterback is locked in. All right. No pun intended. All right. All right. Let's wrap things up with Locked On Vols host Eric Cain. We talk about the Twitter beef between Southern Miss and Vols Nation.
I'm excited for this one. I know that it's been fun this week. I've got opinions.
Talk about that a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I never thought I'd be doing crossover with SEC, but this is the second time we've done this.
Yeah.
And maybe the first time, it was in Florida. It was basketball. It was the Cajuns versus the Vols. And Vols fans were respectful. They knew they won a close ball game, right? Win and move on, right? Great job by the Cajuns. That was a heck of a ball game. Good job by you guys. And, the fan interaction was kind of fun. It's been entertaining to me, but the fans have been going nuts. I don't know, Eric, the last time Knoxville, or in this case, Hattiesburg or Applebee's has been trending ever. And Hattiesburg and Applebee's has been trending because it has not been a fun give and take, although I find it entertaining. I have been to Knoxville, surprisingly. It is a nice college town. I've actually been to Knoxville more than a handful of times. So I like it. I've been to Hattiesburg once. It seemed like nice. I was in and out, but that's been the entertaining thing to me that I did not see coming. Southern Miss versus Vols Nation Twitter beef. That is something new for me.
Well, I'm sure you've seen Tennessee's, fans on Twitter, football, basketball. I mean, they're everywhere, right?
Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, they're everywhere, and it's always it's annoying sometimes, but I love it because I'm covering this team. It's like an us against the world mentality, and so obviously when Tennessee was passed to not be the host, and you're going to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and Southern Miss gets the host and all that, you're gonna have a lot of people that are upset. Right, wrong, and different. A lot of people upset. And it's funny you mentioned the Applebee's, man. One of my boys, on the beat, works for the New Sentinel. He started that whole thing. And this morning he was like, I never thought in my life that this would blow up. I wasn't trying to stir any controversy. I was just being myself. And this has gone almost viral, the whole Applebee's thing. So it has been, yeah.
I'm going to stand up for Applebee's. I like Applebee's. I don't have a problem. You know what you're getting when you go to Applebee's. It's not very expensive. They got good burgers, good salads.
Did you see the picture, though?
Did I see the picture of it?
Yeah. He posted a picture, and it was obviously not very appetizing. So I think he was like, the last time I was at Applebee's, this is what I got. And, I mean, from that perspective, I understand. I have no issue with Applebee's. Heck, I used to eat it all the time. Hey, in college, I would go at like 9 o'clock at night. They'd have a half off apps and drinks. I was broke. I was all the time there in college, so I have no issue with it, but it's just funny. We were talking about it this morning, man. He was like, I had no idea that this was going to be a thing, but here we are. He's like, I'm the center of all the controversy.
That's hilarious.
Postseason baseball. All right. It's hard to predict or anything, but for Southern Miss to win this series and go on to Omaha. First, has Southern Miss been to Omaha before, to your knowledge?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
I do not think so. I can't confirm that, but they missed last year.
Yeah. For Southern Miss to win this series and go to Omaha, what obviously needs to happen outside of, I feel like they've got to take advantage of Tanner Hall and win game one.
Yeah, they got to win Saturday. That's basically it. I think they have to win Saturday. It's not impossible for them to come back and win Sunday, Monday. Of course, as we mentioned, you don't need a whole lot of pitching, but if it's going to be really tough for them to overcome a Tanner Hall loss, although they just did it.
Yeah.
They pitched 9 innings against Sanford and lost 4-2. So I would think that would be the key, right? Because you knock off Auburn and then you got Sanford and Penn again, right? The Volunteers are not Sanford and Penn. With all due respect to Sanford and Penn, the Volunteers are not that. So you have to win with your ace and see if the backup guys can do it. I won't be surprised if this series goes either way. Mm-hmm. I am looking forward to, all the Volunteer Nation is going to show up. They're not going to get into the game, but they're going to show up. And I'm sure they'll be at a watch party with a bunch of, it's going to be an interesting mix of Halloween colors, black, gold, and orange. They'll all be watching in the same park, I think. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure it'll be a whole lot of kumbaya at that watch party.
It'll be fun. I got a buddy, literally, he's going to ride down there with me, keep me company. He has no tickets. He's going to go find alcohol and go find the game somewhere. And I mean, that's to your point, that's what a lot of people are going to be doing. For Tennessee, contrary to just having one ace that you feel so good about. I mean, Tennessee, you got Dolander who can go game 2. You got a lot of confidence in Drew Beam. You got Seth Halverson, Chase Burns in the bullpen. So for me, I think the key is timely hitting. Points and times this season, Tennessee's offense, like Tennessee basketball's offense, has just gone astray. You can't find it anywhere. It's gone super quiet. The back half of the season, they've been incredible with timely hitting. They were great with timely hitting in the Auburn Regional. Continue that trend, regardless of who's on the mound. I think you have enough pitching for sure in a 3-game series to where you can take down Southern Miss or really anybody for that matter. So timely hitting, and I think that Tennessee can make a return trip to Omaha. Schulte, man, it's been fun. Appreciate you. I was telling my show that, man, you do the whole conference. You do a great job. So any Sunbelt needs or information that you need, you're every single day at Schulte Cast. And do you have a show Twitter for Locked On Sunbelt?
We don't. Okay. Not yet.
So just rack up those Twitter followers at Schulte Cast.
Company.
Yeah. Anyway, great job, man. Appreciate you, and really, really looking forward to this weekend coming up. Super Regional, Tennessee, and Southern Miss.
Thanks, Eric. It should be a well of a series.